All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast with Kevin and Josh. Today, we got a real Wall Street legend in the house. Ross Mandell, once known as the bad boy of Wall Street. Ross has been through it all, the wins, the wild times, and the hard lessons. Now, he's back to share his story on a mission to share the secrets for building wealth that lasts. With his newest venture, the Wealth Formula, Ross is here to help you tap into your own financial power. So let's get right into it. Ross, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Josh. What's shaking, everybody? I actually feel great. You caught me on a great day. Yesterday, after like 7 or 8 months of procrastinating and seeing every ologist in the medical field, I went in for a epidural shot in my spine. Now, for those of you that have done this, they tell you it doesn't really hurt at all. They numb you out. They give a local bullshit. I mean, I was like screaming, fuck. When she put the big thing in my spine, I was like, double fuck. It was very painful. And I didn't feel immediate relief. But like an hour later, a lot of my pain went away. And I woke up this morning, and normally I wake up to a Motrin or a muscle relaxer, you know what I mean? Pain pill, all these different things. And today, I was doing a little jig in my house. I was dancing.
Wow.
So, you know, it's
amazing.
It's not a scam. It really does work. But I love what you guys are doing in business. Leverage AI.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's
Appreciate
hot
that
stuff,
a lot coming from you.
hot stuff. And
Very much so.
It really is.
We're on a nice little run here. We're having a good time.
I think I might be able to add some value to your adventure. And I love the name of this podcast.
Awesome.
Because
Thank you.
if you don't have the moxie, the stick-to-itiveness, the ability to show up every day when it's painful, you can't be an entrepreneur. Go work for somebody. On Wall Street, I used to say, you don't like it? Go get a job at the post office. You punch in at 9, you get an hour for lunch, you're done at 5, you go home and watch TV, play video games, see your kids. If you want to be an entrepreneur, throw out the idea of a balanced life. What the hell does that mean? You know what I'm saying? You have to sacrifice a lot to be a stud in business. So
That's right. If you want balance, go do yoga, right?
I got guys that work for me. We do yoga from 10 to 11. We have a 12 at noon. We do it for 20. I mean, no, are you kidding me? We used to get up and go to the gym like at 4:30 in the morning because we wanted to be on the phones in the office by 6:37 and put in a 12-hour day and make 300 to 400 calls a day. You know what I mean? So I don't understand this balanced life nonsense.
Yeah.
If you're trying to build a company, it's a mission. Can you imagine James Bond? You ever see a James Bond movie? I like it. That's probably, Josh, you're just coming into that at 25, you know, you new ages, but Kevin understands. You know, James Bond doesn't take breaks to do yoga and to relax and do mindfulness meditations. He has a mission, and his goal is to accomplish a mission. And to me, that's what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
When you are building a company like the company you're building, you know, it's not 9 to 5. You don't do yoga from 12 to 1 and then take a lunch break. You know, it's about committing to the mission. And once the mission is accomplished, and I'm not saying it's not fun. I always believe one of my problems, I believe you got to have a lot of fun when you work. Otherwise, work is work. But they say if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life, and that's real wisdom. At least I believe so.
Yeah.
And
should be excited to jump out of bed every morning and get to it.
You got to have, my favorite day is Monday. I can't wait for Monday morning. By Sunday afternoon, I'm already in my Monday. I'm doing my Monday, my business, you know. My family used to yell at Dad, it's Sunday. But that's just who I am. And I always wanted to achieve some sort of greatness. And I believe you have to have fun along the way. Some people claim I had too much fun. And I brought too much attention to myself. And that's why they picked me to prosecute when, you know, everything failed in 08, 09. They're too big to fail when everything failed. Nobody got arrested. No one went to jail. But they arrested me, and They charged like 1,000 people that nobody ever heard of that had nothing to do with anything. And all the big boys just wrote checks and, got bailed out. And they're doing the same thing right now. And we're going to be facing a real devastation in our financial markets, real estate, et cetera, in the next 2 years. It's almost like they set Trump up by hyperinflating the market. They chose a course of hyperinflation. When inflation became a big issue, I mean, just go to the supermarket. I don't have to get into it. It's just nuts. And, the White House had a choice. The Fed had a choice. You have to deflate, right? Deflation means raising those rates, tightening the money supply, reducing M1, and making it more difficult to borrow, et cetera. The mortgage rates would go skyrocket. The real estate market would correct. The stock market would crumble. But then who's going to write them checks for this November run? They say that Harris raised over $1 billion.
Yeah, I saw
and
these
still
stats. They're
owes
crazy.
$20 million. She blew all the money. She paid Beyonce $10 million, Oprah $1 million, Megan Thee Stallion $5 million. That's what she did with the money.
Patrick Bet-David put out some stats the other day on the exact campaign spending between Trump and Kamala, and like how much she paid staff versus how much Trump paid staff, and like it's crazy. The only people that benefited in that were the celebrities.
These are the people that have been in the social media influencers, which they would have called me. But I'm just saying that these are the people that were running the country the last 4 years. These are the people that have been running the country. It's a wreck. It's a wreck.
Yeah.
And then, guys like Musk and Ramaswamy, this is to me like, if I had to tell you I admire people, I'm impressed by people. These are two of the most impressive men on planet Earth right now. And history will reveal that one day. I'll be long dead, but their names will go down. And Musk, no question, will be the first trillionaire. And he'll be sending rockets to Mars and all these different things. And Ramaswamy could be one of the greatest speakers, one of the greatest statesmen I've ever heard. God forbid you get into an argument with this guy, you're going to get crushed. He's really a trained speaker and just naturally talented. But so they tried. They chose not to hyperinflate because they really represent the elites. The Democrat Party. There's been some sort of like switch up since I'm alive. The Democrats are no longer the party of the people. They're the party of the elites, sort of the homosexuals. They take foreign money. They represent China. They represent Iran. They got all this nonsense embedded in their party because they had no money. They were just cleaned out by the Clintons and Obama, et cetera. And the Republicans now are really the party of the people, and it was one of the most sweeping landslides across every parameter. I mean, popular vote, electoral vote, et cetera. So, but the reason they hyperinflate is who's going to write them checks? Because the rich people had to become richer, and they all did. And the regular people became poorer. Because imagine you're on a fixed income. I'm a senior now. Now I'm in a different sort of category because I've been in business my whole life. Even when I was in prison, we accomplished things. And but people on fixed, I don't know how you can possibly live if you're a senior in this country right now. Let's say you're getting $1,800 a month or $2,000 a month from Social Security. If you don't have $1 million tucked away, how do you live? How do you live? And so now they set the stage for Trump to take over. The market opened up at another high today, all-time highs. Every day it's making all-time highs. Everybody's dancing in the streets. I'm a trader, a world-renowned broker and trader by every measure. That's not me saying it. That's the United States government, Forbes, Barron's, the Wall Street Journal, etc. All I keep thinking about is how much the market has to go down now. And now all of a sudden I heard on Fox Business, big plug for Fox Business, just so you guys know, I was on it maybe 15 times when I was under indictment. And now all the action is going into the sort of secondary and tertiary markets, the smaller caps, sort of where, small caps are still, it's under $1 billion, real companies. But that's the beginning of the end. That's where the money everything is so overpriced on the big board that they start looking for secondaries, biotechs. Bitcoin, 91,000 all-time high. Ethereum,
That's
Dogecoin,
crazy.
Litecoin. Just so you know, I predicted all this on video over the last 7 months. I said every single thing that's going to happen is happening. All recorded, all time-stamped, etc.
Yeah.
Just go back and listen to my stuff. It's
Well,
all
you know the patterns. You know what to look for sure.
You know what? How many guys can say they were sitting in October 19th, 1987 with $200 million that went down to like 20 million in 3 weeks? 200 million.
Yeah, not many. That's for
How
sure.
about the dot-com crash of start of March 2000? First end of the world. Amazon, the company we know and love, went from 300 to 3 in less than a month. 300 to 3. The biggest company in the world, WorldCom, went to 0. Fraud. Enron, the 4th biggest company in America, 0. Fraud. Lucent Technologies, a Bell company, 8+ rated, went from 82 to 0. Okay, fraud. End of the world right there. Okay, that was, again, then you have 0809. So you don't have to be a genius to see what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not prepared, you're gonna get hosed. And if you're smart, you'll go to my website, you click on the mastermind link, you send us an email, and you can buy my time. Right now it's $5,000. You get 10 hours of my time. It's cheaper than a lawyer. And I'll save you 90% of whatever your portfolio says. I've already 10x'd a bunch of guys that have already hired me, and I've been teaching and training. And, I'm just good at it. I'm doing it my whole life, really. My whole adult life. I started on Wall Street in 1983. I don't even think Josh was born. I don't even know if
before I was born.
Kevin, I don't even know if you were born. Right. So
it was a year before I was born, yeah.
I'm doing this every day since 1983. Even in prison, I taught stock market classes. Showed everybody how to make money. We put a buy on Bitcoin at $3,000. Everybody bought it from prison. Pretty crazy stories.
Yeah, that is crazy. We definitely want to dive into some more of them today.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's do it, baby.
What an intro.
I'm excited. Yeah, what an intro. I would just to give you guys just a brief look into the mastermind that is Ross Mandell. Kevin, you wanna kick us off with our intro question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you already kind of alluded to it a little bit here as, you love the name of the podcast, and everybody who comes on or we invite, everybody has like their own interpretation of what that means. So I always like to ask, like, what does Entrepreneurship Sucks mean to you?
It means that it looks glamorous to the outside world, doesn't it? Oh, you got your own company. You go to weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, brisses, confirmations, and all the different things when you see your family and your close friends, and everybody looks at you, wow, Josh, 25, you got your own company. It's so glamorous. And I'll never forget when I became CEO of my first company, and I was making a lot of money, and it was very public, sort of. And people would say to me, wow, so what do you do? I said, what do I do? I get up every morning, and I deal with problems, and I deal with issues, and I take out the garbage, and I answer the phone, and I make sure the bathrooms are suitable and livable for men and women at my place. So you think it's all glamour, but basically when you're at the top, you're basically just dealing with problems. You're dealing with issues. You got to make sure you have enough capital. You got to make sure that whatever product, service, or event that you are in business promoting is tight. You got to have a plan, right? You got to have what you're going to do today, what you're going to do next month, what you do next year. I've been in the public market, so in America, there's a lot of pressure to perform every 3 months. You have quarterly reporting. Now, just so you guys know, your business guys, but nobody knows this, including probably your financial advisors. The rest of the world is on biannual reporting. You only get audited once a year, full audit, and then you get a review at 6 months. The accountants don't own you. And that's why I went public on London the first time, because it was much less regulation, much more liquidity, much more access to capital, and biannual reporting. Nobody in America knows this. Nobody. The smartest guys I've ever met don't even know it. I opened up that blueprint. I created that blueprint that allowed the big companies, KKR, the biggest guys, Blackstone, BlackRock, to go public and to float companies over there Once you're public there, it's a two-step cheap process to bring it over here. You can create an ADR, American Depository Receipt, and they trade all over the New York Stock Exchange, the Amex, NASDAQ, etc. We can actually just file a Form 10, become a reporting company, and bring your stock over here, register it with the SEC. Versus if you want to go, let's say leverage AI, you guys eventually will go public is my guess, right? It costs you $1 million just to get started. And there's no guarantee you'll go public and get any liquidity or get listed or anything. These banks are going to come to you. You're going to have to put up big money. The lawyers, big money. The accountants are going to kill you. Big money, retainers, etc. There's no guarantee you're going to get anything. Mm-hmm. And even once you go public, there's no guarantee you're going to get coverage. They're going to buy your stock. They're going to tell you all these things. But when you're a small company in America, small meaning under billions in value, you're just going to get shorted. Guys like me are going to say, wow, I'm just going to bang that bid and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And, if nobody's sitting there buying that stock for you, securing your price, you're going to look at each other and say, what the fuck did we do here? Because the bills keep coming in. You got the accountants own you in America. If you want to go public overseas, talk to me. I can take care of that for you. And I mean that sincerely. I'm very respected and loved over there. They've actually reached out to me in writing and said to me, one of your case 100 times. We don't see that you did anything wrong. You're welcome back here. Bring us some deals. I did about 11 deals on the London Stock Exchange. Everyone was a winner. Everyone was a hit. No one got hurt. There were no fines or violations. There's not one unopened, unpaid bill, tab, nothing, invoice, clean as a whistle. That's how I conduct myself in business. The United States government caused my problems. A couple of prosecutors from Lower Manhattan decided that what I was doing in London, while I was in London, with all non-residents of the United States, they decided that I was violating American securities law. So my lawyer said to the judge, why don't they just take away his driver's license too? The judge says, what do you mean? He said, when he was in London, every day he drove on the wrong side of the street. It's a crime, right?
You're kidding.
Said, don't be wise, Mr. Hop. But that sums up my whole case.
Yep.
I broke no law while I was there. I was never charged. They came to my trial and said I did nothing wrong. Head of the stock exchange, head of compliance. And the judge was fuming because he was working with the prosecution. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what happens in federal court in New York. I can't speak to the rest of the country, but you see what they did to Trump. I was one of the first victims of lawfare that everybody now talks about. It has a name, lawfare, and all these different things. Mm-hmm. I was supposedly, because of the blueprint I created, $100 billion. Lower Manhattan estimates I cost them $100 billion, real money, in trading profits and all that stuff. All those companies like KKR, the big boys, would have went public in America and paid the accountants, the lawyers, the investment banks would have been just having a field day with their stocks. They would have made billions. And instead, they went overseas like I showed. I created that footprint.
Yeah,
I spoke with Goldman Sachs. I'm sorry.
No, and that's the real problem. That's the reason why they came after you. Right. In prison, there's an expression when you get to meet guys. They're like, don't ever fuck with my money. Like guys steal shit from the kitchen and they sell bananas, 2 for $1. And then some other guy grabs some bananas and says, I'll sell you 4 for $1. Don't ever fuck with my money. That's where you get all these riots and problems and shit like that. But that's just a microcosm sort of example of what happens in the real world. Mm-hmm. There were absolutely. Prosecutors that was sick. They were sick on me. Preet Bharara ran that office. Trump fired him his first day when he became president in 2016. He practiced lawfare. They went after. He was a stooge working for one of the big firms down in Manhattan, or one of the big banks. I cost them all that money. So entrepreneurship sucks. How did you come up with that name? It's so brilliant to me.
It took Kevin all of 2 minutes to come up with it.
Why did you say? What does that mean to you? Like,
what it means to me. It means a lot of things to me, but I mean, one of them is kind of touching on some of the things that you mentioned is like when you're first getting started, everybody's like, oh, I hope it works out, and talk about you behind your back. Oh, he's throwing it all away. Look at him, he's not taking care of his family. He's trying to build. He's got this pipe dream, all this crap, and then all of a sudden, it starts actually getting some momentum, and then people are like, oh, it must be nice, really? Yeah.
I'm breaking my balls. I'm sweating. I can't sleep. Last night, just so you know, because I have so much going on, I couldn't sleep. I didn't go to bed till after 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I was up at 7. And that's what entrepreneurship is. I'm building a media company now, centered around my personality initially, because I believe that there's a new media revolution. And if you're paying attention, the power of social media, the Democrats were paying all these influencers $1 million. Just to tout Harris and the Democratic agenda. When Donald Trump, who's really smart and ran the most amazing campaign in history, history is going to say a lot about what he did. He didn't go on 60 Minutes. He did, but that wasn't the main thing. He didn't go on ABC, CBS, NBC, right? He didn't even go to Netflix. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast. He got 30 million downloads in 12 hours. The first 12 hours. That's the new media. So
Absolutely.
Raw media is essentially it's our business plan. Where we're at is we're rolling up media influences. You guys could become a part of it. I'm partners with Brad Lee. I'm in touch with guys like Justin Walla and Ty Lopez. Several other big players that you aggregate some people together and you have 20, 30 million in eyeballs. Joe Rogan got a $250 million check from Spotify.
Yeah.
And he's still making additional money from YouTube and other places.
Yep.
So,
it was such the play for me was bringing Tony Hinchcliffe out at Madison Square Garden. That was a big play for me.
I mean, come on, man. It was just, he made so many great moves. He goes to all the UFC fights. What people don't know is back in the early 2000s when the UFC was struggling and John McCain on the floor of the U.S. Senate called it human cockfighting, and it was banned in 43 states. Donald Trump invited the UFC to come to his casinos and throw those fights, and they became great friends. He supported the fledgling UFC, and everybody said it was doomed to fail. And Dana White would be a great guy for you to influence to talk about Entrepreneurship Sucks. He loves what he does. But I'm going to tell you, for years, they were on the balls of their ass. They went to file for bankruptcy. I know that whole story because I was in that business for a minute. I built a league right before they indicted me. With partners with Don King and Dan Lambert and some of the best fighters in the world, including John Jones, who's fighting maybe the greatest fighter ever this Saturday night on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Tony Grano here in Connecticut, actually. We were just talking about his relationship with Don King. It was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I have a lot of stories, too. But I just want you to know that you brought up this Madison Square Garden event. Amazing.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. And who'd he go to? Patrick Bet-David, Joe Rogan, Andy Elliott, Grant Cardone. All these guys were doing what we're doing right now. And then they're doing what I do. They're selling, I'm an educator now. I have a track record of literally over 40 years, 45 years. My friends tell me, please don't say all that. Makes you sound old. I am fucking old. I'm 67 years old. But I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've been in the wars. There's no experience like living. There's no experience like experience. There's nothing like that. You can't learn from textbooks. I could talk to Josh all day about something, but until he actually is dealing with it in the real world, you're a smart kid. You'll figure it out, but it's going to be your experience. What I've learned is my experience can help shape the way young men see events coming in their life. And it gives them a little bit of an edge because I'm a good communicator. And I talk in like sort of plain guy English. I don't try it. I'm not highfalutin. I'm not I'm not hard to understand. I try my best not to employ, advanced vocabularies on people, because that's like this Wall Street way. That's really like the greatest entrepreneurs are the guys that can speak plain. Elon Musk is brilliant at that.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
Ramaswamy has a way of speaking, and even though he is as highfalutin as it gets, but you understand what he's saying.
Yeah, what do they say? Any idiot can complicate something. It takes true genius to simplify.
100%. Look at Donald Trump. Talk about a plain speaking, funny guy. When he I'll tell you a story. So when he just named Marco Rubio as the next Secretary of State, I can't get that out of head. He used to call him Little Mario. I don't know if you remember that from the 2016 primaries.
No,
I'll tell you something very interesting. So this morning, Marco Rubio, the first thing he did as Secretary of State, as pending Secretary of State, he flew to Israel. He's a very big supporter. He's anti-Hamas, anti-Iran, anti-Hezbollah, all the terrorists. Let's get the fuck. Let's clean them out. Fuck these people. They're still holding Americans hostage. What the fuck is Biden doing? They're rallying. They get parades. Anti-Semites all over the country. Pro Hamas. Hamas would fucking skin these people alive. They're still holding Americans hostage. There's 101 hostages still unaccounted for. And these jackasses in Washington have done very little or nothing. To make a long story short,
a lot of people don't know that.
Correct. Marco Rubio, because the media is all in the pocket of the wealthy. They're getting the Iranian money, they're getting Saudi money, they're getting Chinese money. It's a giant scam, Washington. But to make a long story short, Marco Rubio flies over to Israel, and the first thing he does is go on national television, and he goes on my brother's show. My brother is Collier Ben David, born Lawrence Mandell. We grew up in North Woodmere, New York, on Long Island, went to Lawrence High School, etc. I have one biological brother, and he's like the Larry King of Israel. Josh probably doesn't even know who Larry King is.
I know who Larry King is.
Right. He was the biggest. My brother's the biggest broadcaster in the whole Middle East. He has a show on Prime called. It's on for 2 hours every night from 6 to 8, and it's on ITV 24. I'm giving him a little shout out, but he's worldwide. People watch him all around the world because he broadcasts in English, and ITV 24 is a huge cable presence everywhere. But Marco Rubio went on my brother's show. First thing he did when he got to Israel. I'm proud of that. Yeah, but entrepreneurship is really, it has its glamorous moments. You know that when you get a big deal. I mean, that Go High Level deal, guys. What?
Oh, thank you so much.
I only know a little bit about it, but I figured I'd use this platform to ask you if you could explain to me the exact endorsement they gave you.
Absolutely. So, after, the past year of providing, AI support to basically a company that has worked closely with High Level for years since the inception, basically, we helped take them from a 50% churn rate to an 11% churn rate. Now, their entire community is thriving seeing success with their AI solution. We just so happened to, invite Sean Clark, co-founder of High Level, onto the podcast and got to know him and had the conversation. He's like, you guys are actually exactly what we're looking for our AI employee launch that we're rolling out now. He's like, let's have a conversation. And then within a week or so, we had the deal figured out, and we're going to be taking support calls for their entire community for anybody that wants to hop on. 1.3 million users, I think.
So they recommended you to 1.3 million users for what? I still don't really fully understand what you guys do.
As experts in deployment of their AI product. So they have their AI chat and voice solution that they're rolling out, and they're calling it AI Season right now. This is the whole push for High Level going into 2025, and we're one of only 3 companies that are there to support and ensure the success of the launch of the product with their community.
Love that.
Thank you.
It's brilliant. When I was having my website built, right, everybody was coming at me, Shopify, because I've been a name in finance long before social media. A lot of guys that are influencing in my space right now, they're just social media creations. They don't never had they were nobodies before social media. I was on the front page of like 130 newspapers 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was no social media when I was killing it in finance and became a big sort of character. Front page Wall Street Journal 5 times, good, bad, and ugly, taking companies public. The first Chinese company I brought to NASDAQ ever. People don't know that. First American to bring a regulated American business public in London. Did that twice before anybody ever did it once. So built the Homeland Security business right after 9/11. Tom Homan is the new board czar, was on my board for 4 years. He is named the new board czar when he was the number 2 man at Homeland Security. He came on my board, my Homeland Security. People don't know that. With another United States congressman, United States senator, or 2 members of parliament, parliamentary appointee, was my chairman. Now, just so you know, there was no social media then. If there was, I'd have 50 million followers.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the front page of newspapers. I was on television, all these different things. But, what you're doing is really newsworthy. And I hope you're promoting that and having guys out there promoting it. And I'd be happy to help you because I still know everybody on Wall Street. And I'm sort of like a little bit of a legend, if there's such a thing. It's not me saying that. All these guys are coming to me. Oh, my God, Ross Mandell, rah, rah, rah. I literally have 30. I had 30 offers today, just today alone, of 400 inquiries to my website, consulting on companies, because I do really great work and I really know what I'm doing, and I know how to grow business. I know how to do it in a way it should be interesting for you. There are 3 things that you should know when you're building a business. The most important things. And I ask this question all the time to young entrepreneurs like yourselves. If I asked you what's the 3 most important things in real estate, what would you say? Location, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an adage and it's wisdom. Everybody knows. But if I ask you the 3 most important things in business, you don't know. People just don't know. Structure, structure, structure.
Beetlejuice.
You want to? Yeah. All right. So
I was going to say cash.
I knew he was a savant.
Cash collected. But
I was going to say leverage.
But if you structured things properly, your cash flows to you. Opportunities flow to you because you're structured to bring people on, to make deals, to go public. Part of structuring that deal is making it easy. Today, everybody wants ease. I go to the doctor's office. The doctor don't want to talk to me. It's like a machine. I go in, they sign my name, I make the copay. Some lady comes, takes me out, puts me on a fucking table. I'm getting shot in my spine. Nobody talks to me. No one says a word. I'm already face down. My pants are down around my ankles. And this late doctor walks in. Hey, hello, Mr. Mandell. I said, no, there's no hand holding. There's no bedside mat. It's like a machine. Bing, bang, boom. Fuck. She jabs it into my spine. That's it. Doctor leaves. I said, can I talk to you? It goes into her office, closes the door. This lady comes in. She helps me pull my pants up, get off the table, walks out. My ex-wife is waiting for me in the waiting room because you got to wait 10, 15 minutes. They don't want you to drive. And that's the story. Lady gives me a paper. It's all right. You're coming back next week for another shot in your neck, and we'll talk to you. They won't talk to me. People want to create automation in their business. Like I think that's something you guys are very familiar with that word, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
It's a big word in digital marketing and website creation, SEO, automation. Guy comes in, he puts in his information. Now you got your email, phone, this, that, bing, bang, boom, nurturing this and that. Emails from domains so they'll go to the spam folder. There's so many things. But when you structure, just like the website, right? You have to structure your business, your online business. There's digital marketing and SEO and email setup and all these different things. And it's about structure. And you guys understand that because you're in this world. But if I look at the way you structured your company, I don't know what I would find. I don't know what sort of legal entity. Most likely it's an LLC, not a corporation, I'm guessing. You were advised by some CPA that makes like $200,000 a year, that never went public and never did a deal of more than $10 million, and gave you this advice because you'll save money on taxation. And You guys are the managing members, maybe 50-50, I don't know. And then you have members and you get some money, and I don't know how you did that. Structure is the most important thing. I would have had you guys in a C Corp, would have been incorporated in Nevada, Wyoming, Alaska. Okay.
Right out the gates, is that what you would recommend to every entrepreneur?
Right out the gate, a corporation. Now, depending on the business, we go in the wealth formula, we provide $5,000 worth of free documents. Okay. Everything you need to incorporate LLC, master limited partnership. I hate to say this, but I advise you guys to buy the wealth formula. It would save you probably a few $1 million down the road. Elon Musk incorporated in Delaware. 4 months before he had his problems in Delaware, where a chancery court judge makes $150,000 a year, threw out his pay package, $56 billion. She didn't understand. It was all stock options. He created this company from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He hit every single milestone. The shareholders voted, the board voted, they awarded him his stock, and the little judge and a guy that had 100 shares sued. Said it was too much. They thought they were paying him like $56 billion in money. It was all from stock options that were in the money. Mm-hmm. He had to move the whole company out of Delaware. The whole company.
This was PayPal?
SpaceX. He moved one to Texas, one to Nevada.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That cost him $25-30 million at least in fees. 4 months before that, I published the wealth formula. I said, if you're a founder, if you're going to be a board member, if you're an executive, never incorporate in Delaware. That's because of legal precedents. That was the hot spot in the 80s, the 90s. But there were a lot of things like Enron and WorldCom, and people sued, and they managed to pierce the corporate veil 100 different ways now. And it's dangerous. So you have to at least understand. You might not have to be the first guy ahead of the curve, but you got to know. Right now, everybody's talking about Wyoming, a friendly state, right? Friendly state. Nevada, they've never pierced the corporate veil. Why? People want to learn. It's because think of Nevada. Who ran Nevada?
The mafia.
The mafia built Las Vegas. They put their people in place, all the county commissions. It's all like sort of organized. Harry Reid was, on the take big with these people. So no one has ever been able to pierce the corporate veil. What does that mean? Who really owns this corporation? Who really owns this? Now I would recommend personally, you each have an LLC, personal, right? For personal expenses and all that. Anything that flows out of your corporation, your company, leverage AI, your salaries, your bonuses, your benefits, go to the LLC. Mm-hmm. Then what happens with that LLC is up to Kevin and Josh. You take what you need. Correct. You let the money grow there. There are all kinds of tax benefits. You can write off 19% before you get triggered for an audit. There's a million things I can teach you. To make a long story short, in the absence of the proper structure, when you're successful, not if, I think it's when with you guys, from my understanding, it's going to cost you a lot of money that you didn't do it the right way from the beginning. And personally, you're all fucked up.
Ross, I gotta ask, when you say structure, specifically, you're talking to the corporate structure, like of the entity and the setup for, like after money starts coming in. Because for me, like
absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Before money starts coming in. When you establish a business, depending on what the business is, firstly, I would advise everybody, whether in business or not, to form an LLC, and that LLC becomes your alter ego. Nothing in your name. You defray potential liability. There's so many benefits for travel and entertainment and expenses, like your car and your home office and a million things. Internet connections, et cetera, cost of domains. Everything you do in life goes through that LLC. It's for personal financial planning. That's what you tell the IRS. The IRS has that already. They say, okay, they check the box. If you don't know, you don't know. I tell the people around me that are flocking to me, I said, one of the greatest expressions is you don't know what you don't know. I'm 67 and I have like 167,000 miles on me. I learn new shit every day. Every day, from Uber drivers to probation officers to, inmates. I learn every day. I just love data information, just like I know Josh does in some way, shape, and form.
How'd you know?
Because you're 25, you're a savant, you're when it comes to this thing, you see things that other people don't. And I've learned that. I'm around a lot of guys now that are just friggin' geniuses in their arena, but much like I was in the stock market in my 20s. I was making $100,000 a month when I was your age. I had $30 million in my account by the time I was 30, 1987. And by the time I was 33 and I got sober, I owed $1 million. I had $4,000. That's all I had. I owed over $1 million. Never declared bankruptcy. I paid off and satisfied every debt and judgment that I owed, everything. But you know what? I learned from all that so many things that people should know. They need to know. Mm-hmm. You know how many millions of people right now are living check to check, don't know what to do. They owe this, they owe that, credit card debt. The interest rate's about to go skyrocketing, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
25 is the beginning of the end of the markets as we know it. And then they'll heal. They'll correct. The market's correct. Now, the problem is the government's been manipulating the markets now for a couple of years. The Fed in conjunction with whoever's in the White House. So there's going to be all kinds of interesting dynamics. But, you know, I have a great strategy for all this. And I haven't been wrong.
What's one main thing that people can do to try to weather the storm?
Understand what it's like to short the market, how to make money on the short side. There's something you never hear. Every pro, every guy on television, from Kramer, everybody, every guy that owns a brokerage firm, a hedge fund that trades, every investment bank, everyone trades from the short side. Now, I ask you a simple question. Imagine a 50-story building. I'm going to time you running up the stairs, right? I'm going to time you running down the stairs. Who's going to have the better time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, markets, this is a statistical, historical fact, go down 7 times faster than they go up. Where do you think you're going to make your money?
Yeah.
I meet guys like you don't even know that there is a stock loan department in every bank and every brokerage firm. Your broker will never talk to you about short side. They'll tell you it's the most risky investment. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I take a bet that, Kevin, you'd be a lot faster on the way down than you would be climbing up 50 stories. Now imagine the stock market's at 45,000, 43,000, made another high. This market's going to come down 15,000 points. I promise you one thing, it's going to go down 7 times faster or more than it's gone up. So which way do you want to position yourself? And that's what I'm trying to teach people right now. When everybody said Bitcoin was a fucking bust in 2019 on front page Wall Street Journal, it went down all the way to $3,000 a coin. I said, buy, back up the fucking truck. Mm-hmm. When it looks like shit, start to buy it. When it looks great and everybody's dancing in the streets, you start selling. Now, there's different ways to sell. I talk in a very sophisticated way when it comes to this, because they really dress it up because it's all about money. But you always want to be on the short side, especially now.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you one thing. I can give you one guarantee. This market's probably going to go a little higher. Probably going to make new highs, right? NVIDIA's going to go high. Palantir's going to go high. These are my favorite stocks for the last 2 years. I recommended NVIDIA when it broke $100 a share. Went to 2,000, split 10 for 1. It's on its way back, going back to 200. So you know, Palantir's going to 100. I said on video. Someone asked me, "What are your strategies?" I said, buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, dabble in Litecoin, and dabble in Dogecoin. This is like 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin's going to hit 100,000. Maybe this. I was shocked. I said this year, but it's really happening right now. It's 91,000 today. It'll be 250,000 next year. It'll be 250,000 next year. I mean, that's pretty good advice. I recommended Palantir.
And you recorded on this one too, so we'll reference back to this moment.
Yes,
when it hits it.
I recommended Palantir on video, $20 a share. I gave it to some old lady in Boca Raton. She bought it at 25. She saw it go from 20 to 25, so she bought it. You're supposed to buy it when it goes from 25 to 20. She bought it at 25. It hit 60 already. That's Peter Thiel's company, co-founder of Facebook. First 500,000. So, now you have Tesla. I said, buy Tesla. First, I shorted Tesla. Went all the way down to 140. I said, cover, buy. Because the guys that are supporting Musk are smart guys. He's a smart guy. I'm not that smart. I'm really not smart. But I know who's smart. If I'm going to talk about AI, I'm not going to say I know anything. I'm going to call Josh. You know what I mean?
It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Well, it's understanding that you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You have to you're not less of a man. When I go to meetings, I say, my friends posture themselves. They're like, they want you to think they're big, their chest is out. I'm like, listen, I want you to talk to me like I'm a moron. I want you to talk to me like I'm in kindergarten. I don't fucking know anything. I love when I'm in these meetings and they're talking like smack about this and that, and everybody's going like this. They're shaking their head, they're shaking their head. Then we take a break and I say, did you understand what this guy's saying? And he's like, no. And I'm like, why the fuck are you shaking your head up and down? Like, it's like this alpha male nonsense. Mm-hmm. It takes a man to say, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. I'm an idiot. Help me understand. If you're the smartest
man in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Well, that, someone said to me, look around. If you're the smartest man in the room, you're in trouble. One day, I'm sitting at Sky Capital, 2006. I'm worth like 150 million personally. My company's got 200 million in the bank. No debt. I have the checkbook. Forbes is publishing stories about me. And I'm looking around the room. And I'm sitting with like a bunch of guys that are just not that smart. And I said to myself, I'm in trouble. 2006. And the feds came in November of 2006 and raided my place. So there's so much wisdom in these little snippets or these little nuggets, these sayings, these adages. But it's very, very true. You got to really align yourself with people that are very smart at what they do. And, so I love what you guys are doing. In business. I don't like your structure already, but I love.
Well, that's what we got you for.
I love the name, fellas. Leverage.ai. What a name that is. You guys are like really good at marketing, And
that's I appreciate it.
What is AI? This is what I say to you. So AI is like it reverts back to the structure argument. AI allows you to leverage, right? It allows you to automate, allows you to gather data, allows you to process data. That's leverage. And that's what you guys chose that name, which is a miracle to me. But that's also what the right corporate structure does. It allows you to leverage and take advantage of all the rules and all the laws, especially with the tax things. Like Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, he talks about taxes. He goes, CPA doesn't fucking know shit. He doesn't know the whole tax code. And here's what I say to you. You don't have to know the whole tax code. You just have to know enough. You have to know enough. And so, the guys that have hired me and bought my time and all this kind of thing, 38, 32 years old, 31 years old, they all have their own businesses. They all make six figures. That's the sort of, I have a guy 34 I spoke to yesterday, another guy 28, 29, who's making all kinds of money. He's having a lot of success in his field, but he doesn't know the proper way to handle success. I learned because I was in the field and I got shot at. I had to deal with the IRS over and over and over again. I learned so much. I actually took the IRS to trial and I won. But you can never really win with the IRS. I still had to write him a check for over 900 grand. But they wanted like $1.3 million. They wanted $1.3 million, so it was good. But, you learn from doing. And you can learn from other people's mistakes and wisdom. And that's really, really important. I say to you that the reason I became very successful, I made a lot of money on Wall Street, is because I had mentors. Mm-hmm. So there was a guy that helped me get the job when I first broke into EF Hutton. It was the top training program in America. They only took 12 guys in New York in this training class. 12. Everybody was a lawyer, 2 lawyers, 3 lawyers, 3 CPAs. Everybody else was an MBA. And me, I was a handbag salesman. I got my degree from University of Maryland, but, I really didn't study or anything. I knew nothing about stocks, nothing about bonds, nothing about Wall Street. I just knew that you could make a lot of money. You didn't have to fly all over the country. You could just basically go to an office, drink coffee, and sell things. And I said, I could do that. And I said to him, any advice for me? I'll never forget the first day I was going to EF Hutton. I had a really nice suit on. I bought a nice briefcase. I bought the Wall Street Journal. I put it in the outside pocket so people could see the Wall Street Journal was showing. And he says, yes. He goes, you got to find a rabbi as soon as you can. And I'm a Jewish guy, and I'm like, I'm taking him literally. A rabbi? Are there rabbis down there? I was never the sharpest, smartest pencil in the drawer. I wasn't ever the dumbest, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I never was smarter than Josh. You know, I was sort of on the outside looking in, but I knew what I didn't know. That's one of the gifts I had, is that I didn't pretend ever. And he goes, no, you got to find somebody that knows more than you and ask them questions and follow them around. People love talking about themselves, especially successful men.
Mm-hmm.
And at every leg of my journey, I found a guy that would talk to me and show me. And, you know, I'm a big monkey see, monkey do kind of guy. If you can do it, I can do it. I might not do it as good as you or the same as you, etc. But if you give me the time, you show me how to do it, I can figure it out, and I could probably do it. And lately, I've been listening to Elon Musk. So, you know, I mean, I'm not sure about that particular monkey building rockets, you know. But you understand the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And every step of the way. And so this kid bought my course, and I spoke to him on the phone because I'm very grateful when somebody does business with me, because I've been to hell, guys. I've been to fucking hell. I was in the federal system for 9 years and 4 months. I was actually in real prison. I was in 2 prison camps. I was in detention centers, federal detention, I was with murderers, terrorists, rapists, carjack. I mean, in a cell with guys that had 9-inch fucking knives and all these different things. It was really a pretty wild experience. But experience is a great teacher, you know, all that. I forgot the point I was trying to make, but
having mentors. I want to ask you,
in prison, I had mentors. Even in prison, first day.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was like, I was curious, like, who can you name drop some of the mentors, or like,
of course I can.
You know, like who are some of the most impactful mentors in your life?
Okay, so I started E.F. Hutton. I didn't really have any mentors at that time, just like sort of guys that were a little bit ahead of me in the business. It wasn't set up like that. We were new trainees, and they said that 90% of us weren't going to make it, and they were true. They were right. The first 12 men in the conference room when I started, they said, take a look to your left and take a look to your right. We're sitting around a conference. They said those guys will be out of this business within 1 year. Of the original 12, only 3 made it, and everyone was much more intelligent than me, much more credentialed. I don't think they were smart as me, but they were intelligent. They were lawyers, and they were accountants and MBAs, and they knew about stocks, they knew about bonds. And when they got on the phone, I'm like, wow, I can't do that. What do I know? But I do know how to talk to people. I'm a communicator. I love people. I just love people. I know a lot of guys I know don't like people. They have this sort of like thing about them that they just don't like anybody. They think that maybe they're better than everybody. I don't know, because I do hang in a highfalutin type crowd, you know, because that's all I did. It was deal with wealthy people for 30 years. That's all I knew. I lived in my own little bubble, you know, and I was protected and coveted because I was a great producer. So then I go to a place called, I'm highly recruited. I go to a place called Oppenheimer. A guy named Jordan Berlin taught me a lot of things. And I had a seat in the boardroom. I'm making about $30,000 a month, which is not great on Wall Street. Imagine 360 grand a year is nothing. I did that my first year. Second year, I did more than that. But there was a guy named Michael Cavanaugh. Michael, I want to give you a shout out because you had the most impact on me leveling up. And Mike Cavanaugh was about 6'2", 6'3", looked like a tall string bean. He weighed like probably 170 pounds, very tall and thin. He had a convertible Rolls Royce in 1985, and he used to drive it to work. And of course, he was $1 million producer, and guys would park it for him. He had the best parking space in the garage, the Wall Street garage. And it was a convertible Rolls Royce. And he was a great stockbroker, a great salesman. And so I knocked on his door. I was stuck at about $30,000, $40,000 a month. I just couldn't break through. And my manager did about $60,000 a month. And what I learned is you'll never do more than the guy that manages you. I don't know why that's true. The guy, Stu Barrett's another shout out. Stewie, great guy. He's a manager at the first EF Hutton office I worked in. I was the number 2 producer. But Stewie did like $30,000 a month. And that's where I got stuck. And it's good money.
Interesting.
It's good money, but I couldn't understand why it's like golf. Whenever you play with the better golfers, you're going to do better. If you go play with hackers, you're going to do worse. That's why they say, if you show me the 5 people you hang around with the most, I'll show you your future. So I knocked on Michael's door and I said, Michael, listen, I don't want to bother you, but I think you're amazing. Would you mind if I just sit in your office and take notes? And he says, no problem. So around the market closed at 4. At about 3:45, 3:30, I would go in his office, sit very quietly in the corner, and I would just listen to him on the phone. And I'll never forget, one day he gets on the phone. He's cold calling. He cold calls a guy, the CEO of IBM. Now, back in those, I forget his name, he's a very famous guy. And he helped build IBM back in the 80s. And it was a cold call. And he got him on the phone. He had a lead. And he had a thing. He would stand up. He had a big windowed office, and he would look over and put his hands up, which means now he's up like 10 feet because he's like a very tall, lean guy with long limbs. And he had a headset. And he got a 100,000 share order of like a $30 stock. It was a multi-million-dollar trade on the phone. And it was his first trade. And he opened up the CEO of IBM on 100,000 shares, like a $30-some-odd stock, $33 stock, New York Stock Exchange. And I just listened to the way he communicated. And I took notes on everything. And it's almost like through osmosis, I picked up things about attitude, about, when you're selling on the phone, tonality, your tone is very, very important. The first 10 seconds, you live and die in your first 10 seconds. When you're in person, your body language, your expression, your personality, your persona is much more important in a sale. But on the phone, it's really like your tone, your volume, your ability to control the conversation, your ability to truly welcome the objections you get. You welcome them. Most salesmen try to just steamroll you. Big mistake. I mean, you'll do okay, but you'll never make millions of dollars. You have to welcome and understand the objections. I'm a problem solver. I'm going to help you get rich. I'm going to help you make money. I'm going to help you do things your accountant can't do. You have a broker. He was your college roommate. You went to Harvard. Great. Nobody has a monopoly on great ideas. Just give me one chance. I'll show you something really spectacular. I'll live and die on the results of the first transaction. Just give me one shot. Stuff like that. And I'm sincere about it. I'm a good trader. I'm a good broker. I came up with great ideas. I was young. I was drinking and I was doing drugs. I was single. I'd go out every night. Everybody knew that Ross, that big balls guy, big ball stockbroker, Ross Mandell, buying drinks, As fast as I made it, I spent it.
Yeah.
But, I was really great in the marketplace, and there hadn't been a crash since 1929. And I started with $1,500 in 1983, and I turned it to $30 million by my 30th birthday. And I was very proud of myself. And I had a great birthday party and all that. But so Michael Cavanaugh was a guy. And then I get recruited by a guy named Morty Davis, J. Morton Davidovitz, a true mentor to me. And Morty, everybody else was offering me $350,000 up front, $500,000 up front to leave Oppenheimer and go to another firm. Bear Stearns offered me $400,000, and Ace Greenberg had me with one of his stars, a guy named Jeffrey Epstein. You know that name?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he was actually a very tall, handsome guy. I'm 5'9". I'm not a big guy, tall guy. But, they say I have a big presence. And Epstein was very smart, very good looking, very, classy. And I would see him everywhere. We'd hang out at the same spots. It was easy to see because he had a great presence. He was a mathematical genius. He was really a savant. And he understood algorithmic trading back in the 80s. He understood a lot of things that the guys didn't do. And but I didn't go with them. I turned down all this upfront money, and I went with a guy named J. Morton Davidovitz, who today is like number 40 on the Forbes billionaire list. J. Morton Davidovitz, he's referred to as Morty Davis, basically one of the creators of NASDAQ. And he did a lot of IPOs and corporate work. And he taught me about structuring deals from the inside. And after I worked with him, I never did a deal or bought a stock that I didn't own some sort of paper in, options, warrants, etc. It's another very important issue that you need to understand when you're building your company. As an LLC, you can't do any of these things. You can't issue shares, you can't issue warrants, you can't issue options. So if you want to try and buy companies or do ventures and all that, it's a fucking problem. I'm just telling you. When it comes to structure, I'm as good as anybody on earth. And the few things I don't know, I have Columbia Law School lawyers that used to charge $1,200 an hour 30 years ago. These are my partners today. So to make a long story short, you want names. So J. Morton Davidovich taught me a lot. He promised me an IPO every week in the 80s. And he lived up to his word. Morty, shout out. You're great. And
shout out, Morty.
An IPO every week. And my third month, I made over $100,000. And for the next 20 years, I never, ever earned less than $100,000 a month. Ever. Because I was at a place where, so on Wall Street, they call it shooting par. $100,000 a month in commission or trading profits. And you only have 20 days to do it when the market's open. So you got to do 5,000 a day. People say to me, how do you do 100,000? How do you make 100,000 a month? I said, I got to make 5,000 a day. You know, that's it. Come hell or high water. And if one day you make 7, the next day you only have to make 3. And if one day you make only 2, now you got a lot of pressure. You got to come up with 8. Mm-hmm. But that's like you're an entrepreneur of your own business in the stock market. I shared the profits 50-50 or 70-30, in some places 100-0. I got 100% because I became really sought after. And I could do deals every week. I did a deal every week in the 80s. But that's shooting par, 100,000 a month. So you're part of a special club. So I'm making like 70,000 a month. It's 840,000 a year, and I'm not even in the club. 100,000 a month is just, you know. Now at some point, you know, I started making $1 million plus a month. One year I made $65 million when I started taking myself public and did my fund and just made a lot of money. You know, Forbes did a story on me. It says Mr. Mandell made $45 million in these 2 trades. It was 65, but you know, it's amazing how much they know about people.
Who's keeping track, right?
Right. It's so crazy, right? But it was like a hatchet job. They were coming after me. So that was Morty Davis at DH Blair. And then I left and I went to a place called Prudential Base, October 1st, 1987. I sensed something was wrong. And that I moved I put $200 million, including my $30 million, to transfer it over. They gave me a check for $300 or $350,000 up front. Got the check, the money cleared. I had the most beautiful office, 2 Penn Plaza, overlooking Madison Square Garden, the Long Island Railroad in New York City, if you know it. And back in those days, there was nothing digital. There was no internet. There was no computer. You know, it was friggin', you know, 1987. We had no cell phones, nothing. Everything was snail mail. You had to send out your transfer papers. You guys had to get it, sign it in a million places. You're confused. You call me up, send it back to me. Then I had to hand it in. So when I went to base on October 1st, the check cleared October 5th or 6th. I went to the back office. I handed them like, you know, 200 transfer papers or 300. I had 400 accounts, 200 million in market value. Everything's margined. And then October 19th comes. The market goes down 25% in one day, 30% by the end of the week. They stopped answering the phones on Wall Street. Couldn't sell anything. My 30 million was part of that 200 million. And it was in transfer. I couldn't sell. I couldn't buy. Couldn't see it. It took like 3 weeks or a month to get all the accounts over with all the money. They had runners in the back, and they'd go to different firms. They had to get stamps and all these different things. So by the time my shit got over there, my 200 million was like 20 million. My 30 million was like 3 million.
Oh my gosh.
I had to make 130 margin calls. People were like, just sell everything. First, he's not answering the phones. Number 2, I don't have your securities. And if I sell everything, you still owe $150,000. Because we were underwater. It's like a house and a mortgage, you know. You have a $600,000 house, you borrow $500. Next thing you know, your house is only worth $300. But you owe the bank $500. You sell your house for $300, you still owe $200,000. You know what I mean? It was like that. That's what margin is in the brokerage business. So just so you understand, I lived through October of 87. I went through this literally. I know everything about it. No one could ever say a thing about it that I don't know. And I was a young guy. I was 30 years old. I thought I was broke because I was down to 3 million from 30 million. I mean, it was nuts. But I had a very, you know, my sense of money and value is all different because I'm always I'm in this bubble every day, morning, noon, and night. You understand? I had no friends that weren't on Wall Street. And so I just 87 to 90, I'm lost. I get a call from a guy named Steven Sands. Marty Sands, a shout out. These are big stockbrokers, smart guys, extremely talented, two blonde kids, blue eyes from Long Island, grew up lower middle class, a chip on their shoulder, went to Wall Street, became great. And I was going to leave the business. I was going to buy a discotheque in Tel Aviv because my brother emigrated to Israel in 1984. He made Aliyah. That's the guy that had Marco Rubio on TV yesterday. Well, yesterday, maybe today. I don't even know because it's 7 hours ahead. I saw it this morning. I shared it around. But so Stephen and Marty Sands, I learned about arbitrage, doing deals. I built a big New York Stock Exchange business. I met Bernie Madoff during this experience. He pitched me hard twice. He was brilliant. He invented electronic trading. People only know him because of the fraud. But you can't defraud people out of $60 billion unless you know something. He didn't get money from poor housewives. He got money from the smartest fucking hedge fund guys, the smartest broker dealers, the smartest banks. You understand? I mean, because he was brilliant. And he really had the ability to make you money. Guaranteed. He had this electronic trading when no one had it. The problem was he was so good. People were throwing so much money at him. You know, you can't be nimble anymore in the markets. And the markets became very choppy and there's a lot of volatility. They call it the VIX that measures underlying volatility. The VIX numbers were off the chart every day. And Bernie had a bad year in 1990. It was so bad for guys in the market, I actually chose to get sober. I was alcoholic and a drug addict. It was so bad, I couldn't handle it anymore. I literally went to Connecticut. I went to the Silver Hill Foundation in New Canaan, Connecticut. And I got sober. I went to a 28-day program. And I came back out. Nobody wanted to hire me. I'm stone cold sober. I'm going to 2 meetings a day. But everybody wanted Ross, the big fucking, drug user alcoholic that was, buying everybody drinks in the bar. Just, big bull stockbroker making 200, 300,000 a month. Now I'm stone cold sober. I have clarity for the first time in my life. I began my run when I was 16, the day my father died. I smoked some weed and it made me feel better. And I just chased that feeling for 17 straight years. And so I come back into the business. I want to give a big shout out to Stephen Freifeld, Michael Falk, Jimmy Giordano. These guys took a bet back on me. They were guys from D.H. Blair that knew that I was a serious guy. I came back into business. I had nothing because of my addictions. I had all kinds of complaints that chased me. I was only approved in 6 states to do business. And but I'm very good at this business. And I worked I was the first guy in the office, last guy to leave. And by the 3rd month, I'm making $100,000 a month again from nothing. I didn't have one client.
When you got sober, what do you think was the reason nobody wanted to work with you? You think that they thought you lost your edge? That that they looked at your admission of addiction as a weakness?
No. So I'll tell you the truth, because I'm an expert in addiction. I'm an expert in recovery now and all that. I had a sober brokerage firm, and you think that the regulators would have been happy bringing in sober guys, and the regulators went crazy on me for that. So because back in 1990, if you said you were an AA, people thought of alcoholics and addicts as people on park benches or in parks shooting dope, crack houses, and there's a lot of that too. But the truth is, addiction doesn't have any boundaries. Park bench, Park Avenue. In my journey through my recovery, which is more than 30 years now, started in 1990. I've met some of the I met household names, celebrities, some of the wealthiest men in the world suffer from this disease. I used to go to a Washington meeting with a senator. I got him sober. And the president of the United States at the time used to attend.
Wow.
President of the United States. I don't want to blow his anonymity, but Speaker of the House, you have no idea. They have special meetings because you all need recovery. You heard the expression, the 12 steps of recovery. Okay, so the first word of the first step is we.
Mm-hmm.
Second word is admitted. We. You never have to do anything alone ever again. We're here for you. It's free. I thought it was a cult, a scam. Back in '88, I met a guy who ended up being my first AA sponsor, helped me get into the Silver Hill Foundation. He passed away recently, unfortunately, because his addictions were so bad it shortened his life. He shot a lot of heroin. He got all kinds of things. His name was Stephen K. Loved him very much. And when I was first introduced to him, and that guy's in the brokerage firm, this Rodman Renshaw said, he's an AA. And I said, what do you mean? Well, he doesn't drink. He doesn't take any drugs. I said, what do you mean he doesn't drink? What about on Friday and Saturday? No, he doesn't drink. I said, really? And I didn't really understand this, to be honest, because I'm like a passionate guy. When I get into something, I really get into it. So my whole life now became recovery and Wall Street. But one of the things I always did was go to the gym. I was very fit. I used to go to the gym. I used to work out every day. I used to do weights, and then I would run 5 miles, on a treadmill and stuff like that. And later in life, I got into MMA and boxing, and I used to fight and all these different things. I had amateur fights. And but I was very passionate about it. It was really looked down on. People were frightened. I was frightened by it at first. When I was in Silver Hill Foundation, I went there. I stayed in the Truman Capote suite. True, the famous Pulitzer Prize winning playwright and author. He got sober there. Joan Kennedy used to come there and dry out for a month or two every year. Like famous people suffer, but it's very anonymous. You got to be very careful. In 1935, two guys authored a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's not a program, it's actually a book. It's about a 450-page book. We call it the Blue Book. It's like the Bible of recovery. And it's about a New York City stockbroker named Bill Wilson and a physician from Akron, Ohio, who were hopeless drunks, drug addicts, hopeless, found a way, a spiritual path to get clean. And nobody had ever seen that before. For 5,000 years, people were drinking like wine. They would ferment grapes, and all that. And you had the village drunks. You see that in books and movies, TV and all that. There was no cure. There was no solution. And still is no cure, but there is a solution. You can't get drunk if you don't have the first drink, stuff like that. But, so I'm sober and nobody knows what to make, but I become like a machine. Literally, I'm a machine. I was very addicted to Valium for years, and I was taking like 20 pills a day. So I didn't sleep for 1 year. Like many nights, I closed my eyes maybe for 40 minutes. I was literally, I was like, what's his name? The Halloween guy, Michael Myers. My eyes would get back to my head, and I studied when I wasn't going to Wall Street, when I wasn't going to meetings, when I wasn't working out. I was reading scripture. So I became like a little bit of a mini theologist. I read the Quran word for word, cover to cover. And I did again in prison. I read the classics in prison, but I read all the scripture, the Hebrew scripture, the Tanakh, the Torah, 5 books of Moses. I read the whole New Testament. I read it all. I read about, I studied Hindi. I studied, Buddhism, all these different things on my spare time. So I'm very well versed in all this kind of stuff. And because I lived it, I went through it. I come back and my friend Stephen Freifeld, who's my dearest friend from Wall Street, he hires me and I get sober. And now I have clarity for the first time in my adult life. And I'm looking at the world. And I see that all the guys that I was elevated with, we were shooting par, the 100,000 a month guys, all now had their own brokerage firms, their own funds. They were running like they were big shots at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, all the big boys. These were the guys I grew up with in the boardrooms. Because, you remember, you start with hundreds of guys, and at the end of the day, there's only a few that get to this level. You're leveling up continuously in that business. Just like, I guess, as an athlete, you got high school football, and then there's, summer football, and then you college football, and you try to get to Division I and the SEC, and then if you're lucky, you're drafted. If you don't, you're undrafted. You're trying to make it. There's always different levels, in business and life, financially, etc. And I go through this thing with my friend Steve Freifeld. I'm looking at all the opportunities. And America is just, there's now a brokerage firm in every city and every county and every state and every town in this country. It was saturated with it. And so I said, fuck, what am I going to do? And I saw a couple of really ambitious young guys that started to do business in the United Kingdom. And I studied what they were doing. And I figured out how to do it right and approach the cold calling regulations over there. You learn every jurisdiction. It's a very regulated business where I was for all these years. I'll never work in a regulated business again because there's no such thing as regulated anymore in business. Overregulated or unregulated.
Yeah.
And so I decide that I'm going to build a business outside of the United States. I'm going to bring the financial engineering I understand now to the rest of the world. And so Stephen Freifeld helped me facilitate that. I had a crew of 12 people, 12 guys, cold calling, opening accounts. I would fly to Europe and stay at the best hotels and take the best suites and put on a show and pitch anywhere they spoke English. England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. Although the Welsh and the Scottish, sometimes it's hard to understand their English.
Yes.
You know how many times they're like, I don't understand what you're saying. Speak English. They say, oh, this is English. So they come, they're great guys, and nobody, I went to places in the world where people wouldn't go. So Ireland, one of my favorite places, Northern Ireland, Belfast. There were killings and bombings on one side of the Protestants. On one street, there's the Catholics, and they're bombing each other and shooting each other. It's going on for hundreds of years. And on TV, they just filmed this one street. The rest of the country is peaceful, but who knows this? So if the State Department says you can't go to Belfast, they're warning Americans not to go. You can't get a visa. I go straight to Belfast. I go to Scotland. I go to the, Glasgow, where the mafia runs the whole city. The Scottish mafia. Bad white guys. They're warning Glasgow was very dangerous. It's crime-ridden. We can't protect you. No visa. I go right to Glasgow. All the big boys in finance, they're busy in, all the Dublin, they're busy in all the nice big cities. I used to go to the places where nobody ever go. And, they give you a hard time at first, but I'm not easily intimidated. I'm really good at what I do. I know how to communicate effectively. I'm not shy. And now I had a whole team supporting me, thanks to Stephen Freifeld. So I built this huge business in the UK, in New Zealand, in Australia, in South Africa, all the places they speak English. And I brought United States opportunities in our markets and financial engineering to places where they didn't have it. And this is why I say often, the greatest wealth is not created through innovation. It's through imitation. You find something that works and you bring it somewhere they don't have it. Kentucky Fried Chicken in China, Starbucks in Paris, McDonald's in Russia. I'm just giving you through. I want people to understand what I'm saying. I like to break things down to their simplest form. But, they say that Kentucky Fried Chicken sells more chicken in China than anywhere in the world. 2,600 locations. And by the way, Colonel Sanders didn't open up one Kentucky Fried Chicken till he was 65. So there's hope for us older guys. Imagine that. He was 65 when he opened his first Kentucky Fried Chicken. 2,600 stores in China. It's the craziest thing in the world. But and so now I'm doing business over there. Let's just see. Eventually, I get recruited by a guy named David Bleck. David, a shout out to you. David was the youngest member of the Forbes 400 at that time, 1994. He was on his 30th birthday. Merck gave him a check for $300 million. Now, I was really proud of myself, and I let you all know it, that I had $30 million when I was 30. He had $300 million. He did something very, very smart. Biotech was really starting to blow up. He formed a company dealing with DNA called Genetic Systems. A company named Genentech went public when he was at Merrill Lynch, and you couldn't get any stock, and the stock went from 12 to 200. It was all about at breaking the strand, the DNA code and RNA and the message, all that stuff. No one had ever heard of these things before. But everybody comes to Wall Street for funding, not unlike what's going on with AI. They say that's the next big frontier. That's going to be as life-changing as the whole internet. I can't wait to talk to you guys about this more off camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
I can't wait. But I'm just saying to you guys that David Black saw Genentech. He reads Reader Digest. His father was a rabbi. He was sitting in Brooklyn at his mother's kitchen table, and he said, you know what? There were a bunch of guys working on this same kind of stuff at a university in Washington. He calls them up, flies out there. There's a group of scientists studying DNA, the strand, unlocking all the details about the genetic code. And he says, if I can raise $2 million and I can fly you guys all out, find your housing, and I can get you a full laboratory at a beautiful university like at Rutgers in New Jersey. We're going to form a company called Genetic Systems. You guys are going to own half the company. You're going to be the founders. And the guys that put up the money get on the other half. And they said, okay. He goes to Morty Davis, J. Morton Davidovich, the guy I discussed earlier, my mentor. Mm-hmm. David's another mentor. Yep. David showed me how to really do structure and how to get rich on inside stock, warrants, options. I own paper in every deal. And something like Neurocrine Biosciences, I took them public. I founded that company, NBIX. It's like $200 on New York Stock Exchange today. I had founder shares. My customers had founder shares. I had options. I had warrants. I mean, that's how you really make a lot of money. And I'm going to do it now with Raw Media. You'll see that right in front of everybody. And you can be in, or you could just watch me. It's entirely up to you and the rest of the world. I'm talking to all of you.
That's right.
Promote this video. So Raw Media is coming, guys. It's a new media for the new age. Wait till you see what's coming. It's crazy. So to make a long story short, now 94, I accepted a deal from David Black. It was like $1 million deal I got. He literally gives me his whole office. The youngest member of the Forbes 400. Walks out of his office, makes a home for me and my 12 people. Because I wasn't sure I wanted to do this thing. And then one day I give a meeting. I have 12 people working. We get in the morning. I come in. Everybody's got their coffee. I say, all right, here's what's happening today. Because I'm a news junkie, right? I get news from everywhere. I listen to everything. I was on Fox and I listen to CNN. I listen to MSNBC. I want to know what everybody's hearing. I want to be able to absorb it all and then process it and be able to deliver it to my crew every day. Because everything that happens in the world affects the stock markets, everything, the commodities markets, the currency markets, all of it. So every day I give these meetings. It so happens that David and this guy, Steve Ross, is the president of the firm, is walking by my office, and they're mesmerized, apparently. And they say, listen, we had meetings every Monday and Thursday. This is the biggest life science investment bank in the world. 1,500 guys, Nobel Prize winners, Lasker Award winners, which is the Nobel Prize in chemistry, billionaires, geniuses. I mean, what? And he goes, I want you to speak at the meeting. I said, what do you want me to say? He goes, I want you to finish the meeting. I'm going to give you the last 15 minutes. I'm like, what do you want me to say? He goes, just do what you just did right here. Get the troops rallied, get everybody motivated, get everybody excited. We're doing an IPO next week. Let's see what, get everybody going. So, all right. So the meeting goes on. I'm talking about really Nobel Prize. I'm not exaggerating. Lasker Award winners, geniuses, guys that you see now on CNBC that work for Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP, the smartest guys you see. They're all there. And they want me to speak now. These guys are all making millions of dollars. And then they say, all right, do my thing. And apparently everybody's going crazy. We'd office in Florida, Boston, London, and we're in New York. Over 1,500 guys. Brokers, traders, analysts, research guys. Everybody's fucking pumped up. And we have the best IPO of the year. This is on a Monday. By Wednesday, the company's public. People going crazy. Everybody's having their biggest month. I'm getting applauded. Like people coming around, man, you did great. You got me excited. I've been this excited. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So they come back to me, David and Steve. They call me in their office and say, listen, we want you to talk at every meeting. We want you to close the meeting in the last 15 minutes. I'm like, David, because now I have my own crew. I go, David. He goes, we're going to give you an extra $50,000 a month. So I got to speak 8 times a month, 15 minutes, 2 hours, right? So 50 grand. Even though I'm making a lot of money, I said, okay, it's challenging though. It's easy to do once, but now you got to come back and back and back. People get tired. I'm talking to guys that are making $2, $3, $4 million a year. Guys that are making $3, $4, $5, $600,000 a month. I mean, you know what I mean? And I got to get them motivated. I got to get them excited. I mean, there's only so many things you can talk about, but I'm a news junkie and I always find different things to weave into the story. And I become very successful. But David makes a lot of big mistakes. The market went against him. Instead of being short and hedged, he played from the wrong side. He was always long because his experience, everything he did went up. Well, just like now, a lot of guys like your generation, I'm talking both of you, have only seen the market over the last 10 years go up. They're giving money away. COVID, the Democrats, hyperinflation. It's a joke what's going on. Reality's about to set in 2025. And Trump has got smart people, and they're going to fix this ultimately. But we got to go down. Free markets are self-correcting. This country, this democracy, this constitutional republic we live in, just corrected in the biggest landslide in Republican history. So in a real world, the pendulum swings past the point it's supposed to end up because of what they call elasticity in economics. And the pendulum has swung. It's still going. All-time highs. If you got short, you're gonna make $1 zillion. I give you call me, sign up for my mastermind. I got you. Right now, do it when it's $5,000 because it's going to be $15,000 very soon. I have like 400 inquiries and all that. I only take people on that I know I could change the trajectory of their lives. I'm not here to be entertaining for people. The mastermind to me is very serious because I want eventually to be. I have Fortune 500 companies reaching out to me right now. I've got guys like you. I mean that, they just want me to consult when negotiating deals and packages and all this. And I don't just want your money. I want a piece of your action. I want to be invested in your success. I want you to give me an opportunity to make you greater than you could without me. If I can't add value, I don't want to do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I told this guy yesterday, really I didn't think was very suitable. And he kept fighting with me. He was like, no, but I want you anyway. I'm going to send you the money right now. And I'm like, listen, it's not about that. I need to be able to help you. And I'm talking to you and I'm not so sure. I have to basically understand exactly who you are to be able to advise you properly because you're just a person. You're a human being. A lot of the changes that need to be made are psychological. You need to see the psychology of where you're going and what's coming so you can make certain moves that you might not understand right now. But trust me, they're coming. And if I would have listened to some guys, my life would have been very, very different. I just chose not to listen. I listen to everybody, but I don't always act on it. And so 94, I become a big force, a big reputation on Wall Street. David fucked up. The markets went against him. He closed the firm. He owed a lot of money. He owes me money. And, I have a lien against him for 25, 30 years. But, it's very hard to collect on liens when when you're dealing with smart money guys. It was me several $100,000. And he admits it, but I can't get it. And so to make a long story short, I decided I'm never going to work for anybody ever again. If David would have listened to me, we would have been maybe the biggest firm ever. We would have been a top tier firm. And we were, but he blew it because he only sees up, up, up. He's long, long, long because he never had a negative experience. He never sat there in 1987 and lost all his money. Watched everything go to $1. He never saw Amazon go to $3 from 300. He didn't understand the biggest companies can go bust. He went bust. He didn't go bust, but the company folded. He owed a lot of people a lot of money. So some guys that really felt betrayed by David sent tape recordings of the morning meetings. And this began my notoriety on Wall Street. The Wall Street Journal got all these tapes of all these morning meetings. Nobel Prize winners, geniuses, billionaires, Lasker Award winners. And the only one that interested them was me. March 14th, 1996, after 3 8-hour brutal interviews, they published a front page story that memorialized me now. It was the biggest story in the history of the Wall Street Journal. 5,250 words on any person. Me. March 14th, 1996. I have copies of it electronically. I still have the paper copies. I can send it to you. You can find it anywhere. But, I have it all. And it was a very bad article. They tried to use me, my life story, my business story to sort of indict the regulatory framework of Wall Street, which is one of the biggest scams in human history, but I'm not going to get into that right now. And this article comes out, and I become now legendary in the business. By the time it came out, I already had my own brokerage firm. I bought a brokerage firm from a guy named Jerry Roth. Jerry, shout out, rich guy from Bedford, New York. He owned horses, and he worked at Spearley's Kellogg, which got bought by Goldman Sachs. He made a fortune. He couldn't make it as his own brokerage firm. He was a trader and he had no personality, so he sold it to me for $2 million. I put up another $4 million, and I went into business in 1995. And I sold it I was in business for 20 months, 20 months, and I made $40 million. Bought it, sold it, retired. While I was there, I hired a woman named Stephanie Sorno from the Bronx, who I fell in love with. It was the best decision I ever made in my life. We courted, and we ended up getting married in June of 1998. And as a wedding present, I bought her house on Long Island on the beach, on the ocean, on the sand, 5,000 square feet. And I was retired. I was sort of wanted to start a family. We have a baby. Her name is Skylar Rose, and everybody calls her Sky. And I'm sitting in my office. I'm retired. I'm just trading. I'm making a fortune of money. It was so end of the 90s, the beginning of the internet. Now we had PCs. We had cell phones. Connectivity is on the rise, even though the connection was, that noise. Josh doesn't know.
Dial up.
The dial-up modem. I was like driving me crazy. My wife was one of Amazon's first customers, but she used to So I had a beautiful car up in Manhattan. I had a beautiful beach house, and I have a little baby named Sky. She's about 90 days. She's 30 days old, and the market crashes. Enron, WorldCom, zero. Tits up, fraud. Lucent, 84 to 0, 82 to 0. Zero, A-plus rated company by Moody's, Standard & Poor. Brutal. But where there's violence, there's opportunity. And I saw what was happening, and I, of course, was short the whole time anyway. You trade from the short side. And they're parading all these guys on CNBC. I'm sitting in my study. I'm taking care of my baby. I'm babysitting. My wife was running around. And I said, you know what? These guys don't get it. They thought it was just like a downturn. Buy the dip. Buy the dip. And I said, this is not a dip, fellas. This is one of those 1987 moments. I always made my money in the worst of times because I really learned from 1987. And when you lose like $30 million and we turn 200 million of people's money to like 20 million, it's like you feel like a shotgun hit you in the chest. The broker in the office next to me actually died at his desk that day, and nobody knew for 4 hours. His name was Edgar.
What?
Correct. 4 hours, nobody knew. He was sitting there like this, and everybody thought he was just like sitting shiva. He was just all his family's money, all his friends' money, all his money was in the market at the time, heavily leveraged. Everybody's making a ton of money. There's no crash since 1929. No such thing as a crash. When the markets were coming down, everybody's buying, and it fucking just goes down like in one day, a stone. And I said, this is a great opportunity. I called my lawyer up. I formed a company called Sky Capital. My plan is, because I already was doing all my business when I did business in Europe, I said, we're going to go. I write this whole thesis that this is a righting of the ship, a real correction. It's going to be prolonged. And we'll be able to buy assets in the financial services industry for 10 cents on the dollar. And you'll be able to do that again very soon. I'm predicting it terrible. They get hit the hardest, right? Because right now they're making money hand over fist. Everything they buy goes up, 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 up. They're trading profits. Customers love them. They're getting all the fees and everything you can think of. They're skinning the cat every which way. When the market crashes, it kills the brokers the most. Why? Because all their money they trade. You believe your own bullshit and you buy those stocks and you get hit. So just so you know, I know this is going on and on, but
you're good, man.
I don't care how long. I could talk forever, really. But
yeah, I gotta, I have two lingering questions in the back of my mind.
Let's go. Come on. Interrupt.
I definitely want to ask you before, and I don't want to interrupt you because I love this shit.
No.
Good,
I'm just trying to get it out quickly,
No, and we can have an episode 2 next time in person, go deeper into some of this stuff.
I'm so ready.
So I don't know. I bet a lot of people can relate to this, but I'm so curious to know what was life for you like before 1983? You mentioned one thing, and that was your father passing away. And then like two-sided question, like what was it before 1983, and then what made you catch this entrepreneurial bug? Where did you catch it? How did that start?
I'm gonna be incredibly honest with you. So
Okay.
I became this very sort of sick guy. I got up, I smoked weed in the morning first thing. Usually bong, smoked joints before I ate, before I did anything. And then I would brush my teeth and get ready and go out. And then there would be pills. We were taking Quaaludes in those days, drinking. I was very angry, and I was very selfish, and I was broken when my father died. So I was a good kid. I was, out of 624 kids in my graduating class, I was number 6 in my junior year. I was rated 6 out of 624 at a 92.3 average. And the only way I know that today to tell you is that when I got convicted and I went to sentencing, the probation department does a deep dive in who you are, and they actually check. They don't believe it's even your name. They go back to your hospital records and your birth certificates, and they look at where you went to school, and they look at what kind of a student you are. And it's actually in my pre-sentence report, my PSR, which is something the government composes for the judge to decide on your sentence. And the government at that time recommended they said life is too much for me, but I should get 30 years minimum. That was the probation department's, and that's because there were people influencing the prosecutors and the government. They really wanted to make an example out of me as I took their money and brought it abroad in their minds. I learned this later when I was in prison from the top lawyers in the world. So many people reached out to me because I still maintain I did nothing wrong. I fought every step of the way, filed every motion that exists. I'm still about to clear my name. I don't want to get into that whole thing right now, but
You're good.
I was a young kid. I was very fit. I was in the wrestling team. I was in the football team. I was a good kid. I was God-fearing. And the day my father passed away, God was dead to me, because my father was the best man I ever knew, to this day. Because I was his son, his firstborn. He was an only child, and his parents had been divorced. And like in the 50s, 60s, that didn't happen. It was a real negative thing in Brooklyn, New York. If you were a divorced woman, you were considered dangerous by the married women in the community. And so my father was an only child. I was his first son. It was amazing. He was just at my everything, and he passed away very suddenly. Never sick a day in his life, had a heart attack. We buried him. I smoked a joint. My cousin took me for a walk, and then it relieved some of the pain and pressure. I stayed stoned. I'm a self-medicator to this day, and but not mind-altering drugs. I won't do that. I'm clean. But so I basically was like considered a cool guy because I wasn't inhibited. Right? I was 5'9", but I had a wrestler's body. I was very fit. I was considered cute by the women. I was not tall, dark, and handsome. I was one of those guys, but I was cute and I had a big personality, and I loved people. And I'm stoned half the time, so I have no inhibitions. I'm funny. People thought I was funny. I would say and do things that nobody would do. And the cool guys found me because I always got beautiful women, because that's all I cared about, was chasing women and chasing fun, experiencing life. And I did. I love to say that everybody dies. That's a certainty. We all die, right? But not everybody lives. It's a serious thing to say. Not everybody lives. I really don't even have a bucket list except to walk my 2 daughters down the aisle one day, to be a grandfather. I've done everything. I've done things I won't even admit to, unless you pay me a lot of money and you put it on a big feature film with a guy like Martin Scorsese. Marty, I hope you're listening. So,
Wolf of Wall Street, the OG Wolf of Wall Street guy, the global Wolf of Wall Street.
They say I'm not going to be number 2. They say I'm going to be number 2. That's the working title is The Lord of London. I had production companies coming on to me. Then I had a producer call me, believe it or not, yesterday, him and a money guy, Hector. He just produced a feature film starring Jeremy Irons. And I said, who funded it? He goes, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And he's asking for more product. I said, well, I'm available. So we're meeting next week.
It's awesome.
It's, I can be pitched. It's time to get my story out there in the proper way. But to make a long story short, I use that word a lot here. So I was a very energetic young man. I'm stoned all the time. I'm always with the best looking women, and a bunch of very, very aggressive young men in college found me. University of Maryland, Howie Craw, love you, dude. Jay Wallman, Choppers, how are you? And we become really close friends. I was like a cool guy in college. And then we all moved back to New York. Craw was from Brooklyn. It was Howie Cohn when I met him. And I'm on Long Island in the Five Towns, Lawrence High School. We're going to have a 50-year reunion soon. And Craw was a very ambitious go-getter. And one day he calls me up, and we're in Manhattan. We're both selling stuff. That's what guys like us do. We sell stuff. And he says, I'm gonna go to Wall Street. Well, one of the things that predated that, we got a stock tip. I got a call from him. He says, I know a guy. He told me to buy this stock. It's like $4, $3. You should buy it. He goes, how much money do you have? I said, I got a few $1,000s. He goes, put all your money in this thing. I know nothing about stocks, the markets. And I just talked to this guy. He's a stockbroker. We open an account, and I buy like a few thousand shares of the stock at $3, and it goes to fucking $12. And I make like 18 grand in like 2 weeks. And so now I had a little bit of the bug. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I didn't understand really, It was a very interesting little company. It was the first marijuana testing company on the market. Where you could buy these tests in the stores. It was 1982. And so all right, so I'm making like 150 grand a year. I'm selling handbags, ladies' handbags. I'm a great sales guy. I'm selling 5,000 dozen handbags a week to all the big stores, JCPenney, Kmart, all the big shoe chains, Tom McCann, Edison Brothers, etc. And cheap bags, they retail for under $10 largely with the genuine leather. It was the big angle this company had. And I'm making 150 grand. I become a partner. I'm making 150 grand a year. And they buy me a Mustang, a white Mustang, because I'm traveling all around when I wasn't flying. And they gave me an American Express card. I could spend up to like $5 grand a month because I was always on the road. I was on the road 9 months a year. But I was making good money I'm 23 years old. And I'm taking pills. I'm drinking in every club. We had no internet. We had no social media. We had no cell phones. I'd have to talk to people and make calls and find out where the hot place is in what city. What's a hot disco? Where's that club in St. Louis, Missouri, and Akron, Ohio, and L.A., and Denver, Colorado. I'm flying all over wherever there's stores I'm selling. And I go out with him one night, and we spent a lot of money at this restaurant, whatever. And he says, I got it. He used to call me Rose. I got it, Rose. I said, wow, okay. He goes, I had a really good month. I said, you had a good month? He says, yeah. I said, how much did you make? He goes, I made like 40 grand this month. We're 23 years old. I'm like, fuck, what? He goes, yeah, I'll make over 400 this year, 800 next year. I said, selling stocks? He goes, yeah. I said, what do you do? Like, what's your day? He goes, in the morning I get ready. He bought an apartment in the building I lived in. We both had co-ops in Manhattan. And he says to me that car service picks him up every morning around 7:15, 7:30. He's in the office before 8. There's an 8 o'clock meeting, and he basically drinks a lot of coffee, sits at a desk all day, and sells shit. Sells stocks, bonds, whatever it is, makes phone calls. I said, you're going to make 400,000. I'm thinking I'm a big shot at 150. And I'm flying all over the fucking country. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of experiences. It's a pain in the fucking ass. And I'm selling handbags, which really I didn't like. I knew nothing about it. I never had any sisters in my life. My mother was tight-fisted. She didn't have a lot of... I knew nothing about it. And I said, wow, can you hook me up? And he changes the subject. And it's the first time I felt like I had a problem. I learned that he didn't want to recommend me because he knew I was a drug addict. He knew I was using, drinking, taking drugs. He would party with me on the weekend, when he did. But I had a drug problem. He didn't. He could control things. He just didn't have a drug addiction like I did at the time. And he wouldn't help me. And he was my best friend. And that became a problem for me. I should have said to myself, I got a problem. Instead, I'm thinking he's got a problem. He's not a real brother. He's not a real friend. Right? So it was a weird turning point in my life. I said, fuck you, basically. And I used every connection I could, every technique of sales and everything else. I basically bullied my way into E.F. Hutton's training program. And I did it because Howie Craw and a bunch of the guys that I went to University of Maryland with all went down to Wall Street. In 1982, Wall Street, for the first time, comes to Main Street. What does that mean? Telemarketing securities becomes legal. End of the 70s. And guys figure out that they don't have to wait till the rich people come to them and ask for financial advice, set up a portfolio, estate planning, etc. They can come to you via telephone. No cell phones, dial phones, literally rotary phones at the time. I'll never forget when push button phones came in, it was a big deal. We're dialing with the rotary phone. It was crazy. They're probably in museums now. So I go to Wall Street. That was my story, how I did. But I was really, God was dead to me. And I lived and died on my own efforts and work. And that's what I was taught a little bit by my mother, who was 38 years old, stuck with 2 boys, with a house, a mortgage she couldn't pay. All the cars were leased. Things were borrowed. We live in the American dream. My dad was on the come up. His partner, the year after he died, made like $500,000. The most my dad ever made was $48,000 a year. But the house we grew up in, they cost them $38,000, right? When we moved in. Today, that house is $1.2 million. But there's not really inflation, right? The government tells us inflation is only 2%. So that what's your next question? I'm here, so I want to talk about it.
No, well, that was it for me. You did just say something that, God was dead for you, and my natural reaction was like, when did he stop being dead for you? Because that happens for a lot of people. They're angry at God just because something like that happens.
I wasn't angry at God. I realized there was no God. Because if there was a God, they never would have taken my father. A lot of the scumbag men that I knew were all living and thriving. And my poor father died, and my father was the most honest man I ever met. When he walked out and he didn't leave a tip in a restaurant, he would drive all the way back to the restaurant and say, I'm sorry, and give the server like a $10 tip or whatever. It was unbelievable, that guy. I said, Dad, what are you doing? But he was like, no, son. And it was really a great thing. And that's why when I was indicted, they said I did all these things. I couldn't believe it. I never stole a thing from anybody. Do you know when Jordan Belfort did his 22 months after he pled guilty to everything, admitted to committing crimes, stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from his victims? He built a criminal organization. He taught 1,000 young men on Long Island, kids, recruited them. They didn't know they were breaking the law. And then wore a wire and had half of them indicted. The guys at Hebrew, look, there were a lot of bad guys, I agree, and they got indicted and they deserve it, but half of them were just kids. They didn't even know they were breaking the law. Because, you go into a regulated firm and it's got all the signs, NASD, New York Stock Exchange, regulation, SEC. You're regulated. You're a kid. What do you know? They tell you this is fine, this is legal, this is appropriate, it's okay. You believe them. You know what I'm saying? It's a Wall Street firm. It's a financial firm. But to make a long story short, I keep saying that I'm sorry. But
we'll just edit it out each time.
Okay. You have AI, so it's easy, right?
Just joshing you, man.
No, but I love that. But, so for me, I fought every step of the way. I didn't do anything wrong. I really didn't break the law. Now, listen, I'm no angel. I've done a lot of terrible things in my life. I have broken some laws. But the things that they said I did are complete fabrications, complete lies. And they ended up convicting me on one thing, that I manipulated the London Stock Exchange. And I did. And that was my job to do that. I owned a brokerage firm there. I was a market maker. We were doing pipe transactions. Today, I brought the first pipe transactions to the London Stock Exchange. You guys know what a pipe is? Okay, you're going to have to learn these things.
Not in this reference.
PIPE is an acronym for public investment, private investment in public equity. So let's say leverage AI is public. Let's just say you're trading at $15 a share. Let's just say market conditions suck, you need some money. COVID hits, whatever. If you're a cruise ship, you're on a hotel, you're on an airline, nobody's flying, no one's staying in hotels, no one's going on cruises during COVID. How come all those businesses didn't go out of business? Tell me why. Tell me how they didn't go out of business. There was Hilton's occupancy was less than 2% for 2 years. Stock's booming. Okay. Private investment, you're public now. You're on New York Stock Exchange, you're on NASDAQ, $15 a share. You run out of money. Maybe you want to do a deal. Maybe you just want to survive. There's no one buying your stock. There's no money around, whatever. So you get approached by Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Ross Mandell. You say, look, we have a bunch of people that are happy to be players in your stock. We're going to make a private investment in your public company. Completely legal. You're going to sell it to us for $10 a share. And you're like, what? It's 15. Well, if you run out of money, it's going to be zero. If word goes out that you're tight or you lost a deal, you're going to get crushed. Not only will we buy your stock privately for $10, we'll support your share price. Because if I own your shares and I have stock at 10 and your stock's at 15, I'm going to recommend it to all my institutions, all my brokers. It's going to go to 15, 18, 20. Because I just maybe gave you $10 million. You sold me 1 million shares at 10. At 20, I make 10 million. So that's how business is being done now. Just so you know, it's not advertised.
Yeah.
Over $30 billion a month. $30 billion a month. I want to repeat this for everybody. Right now is being put into public stocks by private investors. So I did this on the UK Stock Exchange in 2002 and 2004. To say I was ahead of the times, 100%. But it was legal. And as a market maker and as a broker, I'm obligated to support my stock at £2, £3, whatever it was. And at £3, I had private investors putting money in at £2. Getting an interest rate. I pay, if you bought my stock and you had to hold it I make sure you got paid 5% on your money. Okay. I made sure I wanted to be completely above board. I wanted to be considered the gold standard. I was. It's the number one performing stock, Sky Capital, number one performing stock in all of Europe for 2.5 years. Then I raised close to $1 billion and took that public called Sky Capital Enterprises. Homeland Security. Because Tom Homan, who's the board czar, was on my board for 3.5 years. Tony,
it's phenomenal.
I love the appointment. You're the man. Get rid of the bad guys. Send them home. I love that.
Listen, this has been awesome. We want to do a part 2, and we definitely still want to have a conversation, off the podcast about some other things that we can do. We have an appointment with a client coming up in 2 minutes, so we're going to cut.
And you got to go
here.
All right. Just want to say it was really a pleasure. I'm sorry. But I wanted to I didn't want to give you a cheap. A lot of guys say it has to be 40 minutes, has to be an hour.
No. We like to go for about 2 hours. This is standard for us. That's why we schedule it for that long. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
This was awesome.
And I'm going to have you guys on my podcast.
Let's do it.
We would love that. Absolutely.
Because you get to see my sign, my funny sign over there, which you can't see right now. And,
where's your office?
What's that?
Where's your studio?
Right here. It's in Delray Beach, Florida.
Okay. All right.
And by looking at you with your turtleneck and your pale skin, you would have arranged a trip down to South Florida a little bit.
For real. We were just in West Palm Beach in August. It's just worn off already.
You would have called me.
We didn't know you yet. We were
all right.
at the Tony
you got to come
Robbins
back
event.
because we're doing some.
We know you now.
We're doing some really big things. I'm letting you know. And Raw Media is a great opportunity for you guys.
Yeah, we're interested in having that conversation for sure.
It's going to be nuts.
Let's hop back on a call soon. I don't know, when, but like real soon. Yeah. I'd like to have.
We'll be in Colorado next week. We might even be able to hop on a call while we're out there in between time.
You feel free. You have my contact information. You have my scheduling people, so you feel free to reach out to me anytime. You're great guys, and I would love to know more about the opportunity you bring.
Appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's definitely connect. We're gonna edit up this episode and get it published, and you'll start seeing some clips of it on our Instagrams, and we'll be sure to tag you.
Yeah, we got to do a lot of collaboration reels. Okay, we'll collaborate.
Yeah,
I have a really great following that's growing like crazy, and they're hungry for content. And I have some very serious television people following every single thing. The biggest people right now, and they really. I have a feeling that there's a big story coming out of me.
Well, we're excited to have our next conversation with you, definitely. So,
all right, Mr. Ross, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on today, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Yeah, I want to hear from you guys, and I want to hear about the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm certain that I could add value.
Yeah, sure.
I'm certain about it too.
Fairly certain as well.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time.
I
appreciate it. You guys are just great guys. I love it. I just love what I'm
Thank you so
seeing
much.
here.
We appreciate
you so much.
You coming on and